Tasmaduthan Maturu Namah Kurvita. A leader always has to be enthusiastic and energetic and make others also enthusiastic and energetic. Hence, the king should himself always be energetic. The very important saying, the leadership is all about speaking less and doing more. It is the art of daring, caring, and sharing. The position is not required to become a leader. Whatever the position we are the leader. Just we need to do our best without attaching to the result, as per Bhagavad Gita. Namaskar. A very warm good morning to one and all, our distinguished guests, my dear colleagues, my dearest students, ladies and gentlemen, and if I'm missing out anyone, then to all the esteemed participants of this webinar. My name is Dr. Sudhir Kumar Chaturvedi, faculty in the Department of Aerospace Engineering, and along with me, Dr. Sunil Rai, Vice-Chancellor, UPES. UPES envisions itself as an institution of global standing which fosters development of professionally competent talent and contributes to the nation building. With such a vision in our mind, we had taken another leap in the journey where we had started a webinar series that gives us a chance to interact with and hear from the industry some of the most prominent and renowned personalities of all time. We have come up with another interesting session of the webinar today on the topic governance and leadership. We at UPES Dehradun are delighted and honored to host today's webinar in the auspicious presence of the grandson of former Prime Minister of India, Bharat Ratna Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. Shri Sameep Shastri, welcome sir to UPES on the virtual era 2020. Mr. Sameep is the chairman at Indian Institute of Governance and Leadership, the president of the Confederation of Young Leaders, vice chairman, BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the president of BRICS CCI Young Leaders. Mr. Shastri has been organizing national, international congresses and conventions on the leadership and governance. He has implemented many programs at the global level for making the world citizenry aware regarding the need of employment-centric, choice-based life skill and the sustainable developments. In this connection, many youth empowerment programs and sustainable development programs have been conducted under his leadership by various organizations that he has co-founded and is associated with in numerous countries like China, Brazil, Russia, Norway, Serbia, Bolivia, Venezuela, Vietnam, Guatemala, Botswana, Peru, Republic, and South Korea Republic of. Mr. Sameep is the columnist for several reputed journals, diaries, and magazines, acknowledging his efforts towards Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, billions for trillions, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Skill India, and other initiatives by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Honorable Vice President of India, Honorable President of India, and many union ministers of the Government of India and other prominent organizations have recommended and acknowledged his efforts. For the last 5 years, he has dedicated considerable focus towards Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the Clean India movement, through various initiatives such as which turned out to be one of the largest youth initiatives for Clean India, a youth-led initiative initiated in year 2015, which was to realize the Government of India Swachh Bharat Abhiyan campaign and to supplement the complement United Nations Sustainability Development Goal SDG 6 that focuses on improving personal public sanitization, easing access to the clean water, and eliminating open defecation by improving public infrastructure through the collective effort. Taking forward the illustrious legacy of his grandfather, former Prime Minister of India, Bharat Ratna Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri, he has been active in public services in many years now. He is a charismatic leader, versatile, performance-driven, and armed with a tremendous sense of social responsibility. He brings to CYL to a renowned sense of the vigor and energy. He exhibits a high degree of flexibility, resourcefulness, and commitment to the work that thrives on challenges that requires him to walk the tightrope. Owing to his own warm personality and exceptional communication and interpersonal skills, he enjoys huge mass appeal whether he is walking with the people or leading them. Being the youngest grandson of the much respected former Prime Minister of India, was introduced to the value of integrity and honest work ethics very early in the life. These values have helped him build a strong network to like-minded people in the field of social work and business, through which he regularly organizes and attends social and cultural events. He also serves as one of the trustees of the Lal Bahadur Shastri Education Trust, which itself runs over 150 educational institutions across India. Through the Indian Institute of Governance and Leadership, he aims to work towards building a strong, skilled cadre of public leaders for all the sectors. Mr. Shastri also served as a board member of BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which serves as a apex organization for cooperation and engagement between industries and SMEs based in the BRICS nations. Powering his vision creating a 21st century leadership to combat present to the future challenges, he exhibits exemplary dedication as a youth activist and public speaker and regularly appears on the panel organized by media, government, and universities globally. Powering his vision to creating 21st century leadership to the fight 21st century challenges, Mr. Sameep is well acquainted youth activist and public speaker. As a motivational speaker, he is regularly on the panel organized by media and various governments bodies. In addition, he serves as the advisory board of the several prominent organizations and institutions. He is listed among India's most influential youth with a lot of Indian and international awards honoring him for his work. Mr. Sameep holds the post-graduation degree from Oxford Business School, United Kingdom. His undergraduate degree was an honor in business from Western International University, Phoenix, Arizona, the United States of America. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation to the talk on governance and leadership. Before I hand over to you, I request UPES Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sunil Rai, to welcome you formally. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sudhir. I join Sudhir in welcoming Sameep Shastri, an iconic youth leader coming from the lineage of the most revered son of this nation, the great Bharat Ratna Trustee-Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, our former Prime Minister, known for his own style, honesty, integrity, hard work, and boldness, which of course runs in the family which Sameep represents today. I join Sudhir in welcoming you, Sameep, to address this particular webinar, coming at the right time and coming from a young leader like you. It assumes even more importance. And of course, you have every reason. You have yourself been contributing to the various writings. You have been expressing your thoughts very boldly, much like your grandfather. So he was one of the most bold person. He never was shy of expressing, and which is what you had been doing in all your writings. And at university, we had been following you. And our students are very, very encouraged. And I'm sure the youth of the India will be benefiting from already an introduction has been given about Sameep's achievements, Sameep's contributions that he continues to make in bringing this leadership aspect and the governance of aspect to the fore to the young leaders. I will just make few comments after welcoming Sameep. So Sameep, welcome to this particular webinar. We are very proud that you are addressing this particular webinar. UPES, the energy is one of the letters that is there in our name. And that's what we like to portray to the youth. You will be very happy to note, Sameep, that we have created something called School for Life. Because other than domain, it's very, very important about these whole aspects of honesty, integrity, the aspects of creativity, and how do you come about, how do you understand context, and how do you behave in that context is extremely, extremely important. I'm reminded of two great people here. One is, of course, Swami Vivekananda, who mentioned in 1893 had announced to the world that this century which we are in will be the century of Mother India. And we will become the Vishwa Guru. And we are anyway seeing all the happenings today when the whole world is struggling still with this pandemic, COVID, with all the criticisms to our nation. The whole world has acknowledged that we have managed it fairly well. We have managed it fairly well without that kind of technological brilliance that the others had, without the kind of track record and medical facilities that they had. But one thing which they didn't have and we have is a very strong lineage and the value system that our ancestors have given us thousands of ages, where we have got it. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why we could possibly do this. And time coming, why I said that it assumes very strong position, this topic about governance and leadership, is that one thing, of course, Swami Vivekananda announced, and the one thing the late our Prime Minister Bharat Ratna Trustee-Lal Bahadur Shastri ji had actually given to the world about this boldness. I think one of the boldness with humility. I mean, there are three things that I can imbibe from what our former Prime Minister used to always. I was a small child when, of course, I was in a place called Bina, Sameep. This place is near Bhopal. I hail from Bhopal. And I remember the whole town, we were all, when we heard this sad news of passing away of your grandfather, the whole town was crying. You know, that's the kind of influence, and we had never seen him. Of course, those were not the days of television and all that. We just heard his speeches on the radio. And just imagine that's the kind of influence he had. And that time as a child, I did not understand, but later on, I joined the Defense Forces myself. I am a commander retired from the Indian Navy. And your grandfather used to say, Jai Jawan,
Yes.
Jai Kisan. And these are the two things which take this nation, the security and the food. I think when the whole world ridiculed us about when the pandemic happened, and it happened, not pandemic, the famine happened when your father was actually there at the helm. But look at the way, that's where he said that if India has to be a leader in the world tomorrow, it is through agriculture. And today it is so very true. And so he could see things for 100 years later, and this is going to happen. And young children who are attending the webinar today must please feel proud of this aspect, which Sameep will of course be sharing his thoughts with you. And he is a young leader like you. And I salute you along with Sameep. And there's a reason why I do that. I salute you because you all are going to be the citizens of the nation, which will be the #1 nation of the world. Economically, we are already fifth, and very close fifth to the fourth who is there. We were nowhere even in 100, say about when I was growing up as a child. You know, so we were children or the youth of third world underdeveloped India. You know, developing nation, third world. Whereas you are going to be the youth of the nation, which will be either #1 or in top 5 in every aspect, whether it is agriculture, whether it is industrial production, anything. And today on the world map, India matters. You know, now the Indian election is also looked at as keenly as the American election. And I am seeing it all on the WhatsApp. They're saying anyway, India manages with all the complexities, the elections much better than what the United States are able to do it. In fact, the world is ridiculing the way actually things are going on in there. I don't say it with a lot of sadistic pleasure, but the point what is being made here is that we are here to arrive. We have already arrived, and I wish all the youth all the very best, that you are the ones who will be taking this nation to that #1 nation in the world. And it should happen through the things that our former Prime Minister had taught us. I think 3 things that I was telling you buy from him. First one is honesty. I think Lal Bahadur Shastri ji stood for honesty. Honesty and Lal Bahadur Shastri were synonyms. You know, honesty of purpose, honesty of integrity, honesty of desire. I think that person was fully, so you could say honesty was his another name. So one thing which that Shastri ji told us was about honesty. The second aspect which we must all understand as youth is humility, which the Prime Minister taught us. Look at that, such a humble man that he was, that he used to be, walking from the corridors, and he said that somebody came to receive him. I remember he actually said that I am like one of you. And the humility that comes from knowledge. And he was such a well-read person himself. So that humility is something which you practice. Humility is not bowing to people. Humility is about respecting others. And that's what I think Shastri ji did. So honesty and humility. And the third H that I identify our beloved former Prime Minister is about hard work. Extremely hardworking person. I mean, that people used to wonder, when does he sleep? I am given to understand by those people from one of my admirals who used to be there in the South Block that point of time when Sir was the Prime Minister of the country. He said, my goodness, we used to keep wondering, where does he draw his energies from? That person was never getting tired. So for the youth of the nation, these are the 3 H from my side, imbibing from our beloved late Prime Minister Bharat Ratna Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. which is honesty, humility, and hard work. And once these things are there, you will be the leaders that the world is looking for. And Sameep will, of course, be presenting you his views and sharing with you, where he being the youth leader like you, will be able to give you more current things about the mantra of how to be a good leader and bring about good governance. This nation needs good governance. So thank you very much once again, Sameep. I welcome you, and we are all looking forward to hear your views.
Thank you so
much. Welcome, Sameep, and over to Sudhir.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, now it's over to you to talk about the topic governance and leadership.
So, good morning to everyone. Thank you, UPES Dehradun, and especially to Vice-Chancellor Dr Sunil Rai ji and Assistant Professor Dr Sudhir ji for inviting me to talk about my favorite topic, governance and leadership, because which is the core essence of anything that exists, whether it is your business, whether it is your government, whether it is your basic house management. It is successful with good governance and good leadership. So it is a key role that everyone performs in a very simple manner, and everyone does it, doesn't realize how strong they are at it. So I would start by saying that governance is a very loaded term. It entails the actions and manners of governing a state or a system, which primarily means that our actions justify both the means and the ends to the entire good for the society, whereas leadership is about mastering these actions of good governance that help a society grow in a guided direction. I would like to quote my grandfather here. We all have to work in our own respective spheres with the same dedication, the same zeal, and the same determination which is inspired and motivated the warrior on the battlefront. And this has to be shown not by mere words, but by actual deeds. What I personally feel is anything that we do has to have a lot of dedication towards it. That is what leadership is all about. And now when we talk about governance and leadership, what does it mean to you? Why we all are emphasizing on it so much, why it has become so important for us, is these are the answers to the questions which we need to decode. These are questions that we need to understand. The concept of governance is not new. It has been there for ages. It is an old human civilization where governance is the process of decision making, and the process of decision are implemented or not implemented. It can be used in several contexts such as corporate governance, international governance, national governance, and local governance. Governance can be good or bad. That is what the whole debate is all about. So taking this further, I would like to now talk about, I don't want to get into too much theory of governance and leadership, but the basic theory expresses your main, composition. So it's very important to understand that this theory expresses, the governance theory expresses two fundamental ideas of which human mind always clings to: the value of liberty, the idea that will and not the force is the basis of a good governance, and the value of justice, or the idea that is right or not might, is the basis of all political society and of every system in political order. That's where democracy plays a very important role and autocracy doesn't. So it is very important in a good governance scenario that you decentralize all the approaches. Self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, social skills these are the main factors, the 5 EQs that actually help one to grow in the sphere of governance. Many challenges are faced in good governance, that is criminalization of politics, corruption, gender disparity, growing of incidents of violence, delay in justice, centralization of administration system, marginalization of socially and economically backward people. So why we keep talking about all this is through my organizations like Indian Institute of Governance and Leadership and Confederation of Young Leaders, we primarily focus on the sustainable development goals, which talk about no corruption, which talk about gender equality. Why it is important? It is important because in today's scenario, one needs to realize that new age technology has given us access to the right information, and it has given us a medium through social media to raise our voices and to be opinionated. So it is very, very important to realize that we are much more powerful than what we were 30, 40 years back. There were opinions of our fathers and forefathers which probably settled around in a drawing room setup or a home setup in a discussion. But today, the youth, has the power to express and criticize any government move, any policy, anything that our surroundings is impacting. Today, climate change is such a big thing. Delhi, especially being from Delhi NCR, we keep criticizing the government and talking about the pollution level and talking about the governance, that they're not doing anything about it. But what one needs to look inside and see, what are we doing as individuals, as young leaders? Can we help? Yes, we can help. Why are we not using the commercial transportation for commuting? As young leaders, most of us think of materialistic desires of having a nice car or a nice bike to travel and commute. We never think of taking public transportation. We criticize the government that it is not clean, it is not safe, it is not. So it's very easy to criticize someone. That is the basic nature of us. But as young leaders, what I always advise is we have to start concentrating on bigger medium. We have to start telling people, just because the government has made a rule that no smoking in public places, I think one should be always opinionated about it and should go ahead. If you see someone smoking in a public place, you should go and tell the person. That is what the young leader's responsibility, and that's where your first step as a leader takes place, when you start taking your opinions. And if you see a car or a vehicle which is throwing a lot of smoke, you should, as a aware citizen, take that leadership initiative. We all keep asking, how can we contribute? We can contribute by such simple steps, not just by keeping our society or our house clean, but if we see something, there's no harm doing it ourselves. The biggest initiative that we took in 2015, which became one of the biggest youth events, we were able to clean majority of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra's smaller tier 3 cities by volunteer efforts, where students were just taking out 30 minutes from their normal routine of walking or going to a market and cleaning the society, which was a very, very simple step, but it was an initiative which helped the society and the country. So what I advise is that this government, our Honorable Prime Minister, has been talking about good governance. He has See, the right to information has been implemented. The e-governance has started. Legal reforms are taking place. Ease of doing business is improved. Decentralization is taking. A lot of aspirational district programs are starting. Recently, the faceless assessment for income tax has been announced in August 2020. So these are steps which are allowing you as an individual to grow and express, and you don't have to worry about corruption. You don't have to worry about facing the authorities, but you will have a voice which will be concerned, which will be raised and will be duly transparently assessed, and a right judgment will be given. So these are the following steps that you all have to start thinking and inculcating for good governance. For an effective functioning of a governance, it is prime concern of every citizen of the country that the citizens are ready to pay the price of good service offered by the state. What happens in these days? You put a dustbin, next day you see that steel dustbin has been stolen or is broken. Why does this happen? Because I'm sure whosoever the bad elements of the society are, were not stopped at the right moment. And why were we not stopped? Because the aware citizens and the people around those societies did not take that step. So who is to be blamed? Not just the government, ourselves as well. So these are very, very small examples. Why I'm correlating it with day-to-day examples is so that you all are able to understand as listeners that what steps. It's not necessary to become a legendary hero, or you have to go on dharnas and you have to stop create a movement. But small steps create movement. You have to start taking that baby steps. When you are born, you just don't start walking, right? You take those couple of years, 1 year, 15 months, and then you start taking your first steps. Those baby steps are important. That baby steps are self-awareness, and being that, having that attitude of nation first. Nations first is the primary concern of any good governance. Once you have that ideology, that's what our forefathers had, and that is what we are enjoying as freedom today. So if we had that attitude, and if we still have that attitude, and unfortunately, language plays a very important role in this. India is a country which has lakhs of languages and regions. Places like USA, there's a lot of patriotism that they keep talking about. Unfortunately, you don't see it in the current US president elections. But having a common language like English and Spanish and a couple of 3-4 more languages helps the nation, come united. But unfortunately, in India, it was a very big step for Sardar Patel to actually reunite India as a whole and with so many different languages. But now as India, when we are together, we should start realizing that it is not about the languages. It is not about the place that you are. It is not about the caste. It's not about the religion. It is about only one thing: a good nation and a green nation for the future of us and for the betterment of others around us. Tomorrow, 3 generations down the line, they are the people who will acknowledge your efforts, and you will become the faces for the history. It is very important that in today's world, I keep talking about, a lot of people want to know about Shastriji. Shastriji, there was this incident, when, as Dr. Sunil Rai had pointed out about the Green Revolution and the White Revolution and the Jai Jawan Jai Kisan. So the whole agenda behind promoting agriculture was very simple. We were being dumped with the worst kind of wheat from developed nations like United States at that time, and that kind of wheat was not even good to feed to animals. Forget about humans. That's when Shastriji had appealed to everyone that Monday fast is important. But what you need to understand as a leader, he first, for a complete 1 month, ensured that his family, my father, who was barely 12 years old, and the youngest people in the family were made to fast for an entire day, continuously for a month. That's when he took that step and appeal. So what I'm trying to say is that whatever you try to do has to be done in a smaller fashion. And you need to understand whether you can do it or not. If you can do it as a leader, as a person, then you can guide others to do it. Only once you have experienced something, that's when you actually are able to execute it in a manner, because you have seen the difficulties when things that you decide you want to do. Once you have experienced it, so it was a very small step. There have been many railway accidents post that, and people haven't resigned. The idea is the moral responsibility that one needs to take for his or her own actions, whether the decision, he could have very well said that वो तो driver की गलती थी या तो किसी station master की गलती थी. That is not the case. One needs to realize that you are at the top. You might have a decentralized approach, but you have to take onus. When I am there in the position, these are calls, whether the person has taken, you have to take the onus for whatever subject or whatever project that you have taken as a leader. So that these are examples why you keep correlating and why you keep telling is one needs to keep on understanding that there is a moral responsibility to become a good leader, an ethical responsibility. As Dr. Sunil Rai clearly pointed out, honesty, humility, hard work. Everybody knows these are the key essence, but are we following it? We are too distracted in today's scenario with our social media engagements, our friends, our peer pressure, and our movies and all our social obligations. Our hard work and dedication, education is the basis of a good governance and leadership. When we are as students, we are subjected to so many different distractions. One needs to have proper time management. I'm not saying you don't enjoy. I'm not of that opinion. But before you enjoy, you need to make sure that whatever you're studying, whatever you're doing, that work is completed. And honesty plays a very important role in one's life. It's very easy to get dented by and distracted by these corrupt officers wherever you're, unfortunately or fortunately, somewhere or the other, so everyone has become a part of this corrupt world, indirectly or directly. But one needs to realize and start thinking and say no to people who are trying to promote such things. Whether it is, a simple step where your passport comes and a verification asks for a simple 500 rupees just to make sure that you get verified. It's a very common practice. That's why I'm raising this issue. And we all readily do it. चलो यार 500 रुपए की बात है, दे दो, at least हमारा verification हो जाएगा. This is the attitude that we need to change. The chalta hua attitude, the jugadu attitude that most of us have accepted because of our grooming or whatever you want to call it, but we really need to start becoming opinionated, and we need to say no. We have to start to learn to say no. We need to respect the word no. We take it very casually. If there is something that you can't do, you need to understand and you need to say that you can't do it. Underage driving, these rules have been made for the benefit of us as young leaders, as the future citizenry of India. We are at a stage where whether we can make it or break it. So we have to become responsible. India should always focus on developing property and governance, which will make the governance more ethical. The government should continue to work on, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. These are initiatives which are very, very, simplified. Earlier on, our government was also not encouraging. Our Honorable Prime Minister has been talking about 65% of the population being youth. Why are we emphasizing on them? Why is our government emphasizing on the youth? Is because the key essence and the future depends on what we do and what we don't do. Leadership is important. What is the role of leadership? These are all questions which we need to sit down and start discussing amongst ourselves as friends. As we discuss our movies, we should start talking about subjects that are very relevant today. We should start talking about sustainable development goals. Unfortunately, I don't want to play the blaming game, but our forefathers did not pay attention to the concrete jungle that we are living in Delhi NCR. It had become a complete infrastructure monetary benefit game where people did not pay attention to the greenery and did not pay attention. And that is what we are suffering, and our future generation will suffer. What is that we want is, do we want to wear a pandemic mask all throughout our lives? It is now. COVID has happened for a reason. It has happened for every citizen across the globe to realize that we have killed our mother nature. We have not respected it. We need to start thinking, do we want our children to associate ourselves with future masks and not being able to freely breathe also, which is our fundamental right? And we want governance on top of that to ensure that we are wearing masks. This is what is happening in Delhi NCR and Metropolitan. The local government is making sure that you're wearing masks, otherwise you're penalized. Imagine the gravity of the situation today, that we are living in a world where we freely cannot move around. All the efforts, I think we all should start taking pledge that all the efforts that we do and all the businesses that we create have to be sustainably developed. They have to be thought in a futuristic manner. Like Shastriji thought about green evolution and gave that Nara Jai Jawan Jai Kisan, which is very relevant today, that agriculture, we should start buying local. We should start thinking about organic. We should start cleaning our environment. We should start planting trees. All of us spend on Diwali and birthdays, we spend on clothes, materialistic things. Why can't we buy a sapling, a simple sapling of 50 rupees and plant it outside on our garden or our footpath or some garden in and around? I'm not stopping you to buy your materialistic pleasures, but with that, a single good deed, if done by 135 crore people once a year, would change this nation. It's a very simple request, but it can be done. Similarly, more initiatives can be thought. What we need to do is sit in a group, have those brainstorming sessions as young leaders and educationists and as teachers. We keep talking about Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah. Our teachers have always guided us. They have always stood by us. Till date, I have been guided by my mentors. They are always there with me. And these are thoughts that they have instilled in me. So I request all the young participants who are here to respect and to understand what the sacrifices your guru is doing for you to make you a better human being. He's not benefiting, she's not benefiting out of this. You will benefit once you step out. So you have to start understanding that there are so many professions like doctors. Doctors were never acknowledged. Suddenly, COVID-19 has made us realize that doctors, the COVID warriors, and so many recognitions and felicitations took place. But why did it not happen before? My question is very simple. Why are the teachers only remembered on Teachers' Day? Why can't we just take guidance on every single step? And I'm sure whosoever is teaching you would love to guide you, even if he's at the age of 85 or 90. They would love to tell you what are the right steps for you to grow. So always take guidance and support from such people. That is what I would really like to mention here. Leadership can be understood as the act of setting or clarifying goals for group or mobilizing the energies of members that group to pursue those goals. It's about influencing the others to achieve those goals. So what I'm trying to do here is the same. I want to influence you to become good leaders. Good governance entails creating the environment that is inclusive, sensitive, and responsive to the needs of the people and effective to many challenges it encounters. What we need to do as young leaders is need to understand through our organization, through our programs like IIGL, through getting associated with these youth brigades across the India. I'm not saying just join our organization, but there are so many other youth organizations which keep talking about sustainable development goals and which keep talking. It's good to be a part of such forums which actually help you grow as a leader. So I will advise all of you to actually join such forums which give you that insight to what are the basic problems and to help you find that solution in those particular regions. I would also like to point out two points here, that in any leadership program that we take up, so theoretical knowledge is something which we always ignore. What we need to change in the education system is how to apply those theoretical knowledge. That's a constant complaint that the young leaders have. Sir, we have given presentations, we have given dissertations, we have made research papers, but what is the application? So I personally feel a lot of case studies, and in your future studies, one should, in education reforms, the new education policy is also here, and I've spoken to the Honorable Minister and given certain suggestions from my end as well, where we are talking about having such programs where the theoretical knowledge can be easily passed on and can be utilized in a practical situation, which is very, very important. As a staunch supporter of youth empowerment, I've always believed in preparing the youth as a future leader by shaping the present and giving them the opportunity that every leader must have. My organizations and programs, for instance, namely CYL, IIGL, and BRICS Young Leaders, add value to young minds and becoming future ready. And on that note, I would like to thank everyone who has been really patient listening to me and has actually given, thank you all for being present and giving us time here. Thank you, Sudhirji, for inviting me here.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words and lecture. We will take some of the questions what we have prepared, and we have come up with this. There is one question. Role of women has always been suppressive in the leadership and governance. What you would like to say about it?
Personally feel it is very, very evident, except for certain industries like education where women are more or less at par. But most of the other industries that you look at, we definitely find that women empowerment is essential. But the ideology having reservation versus making sure to have quality people is something which starts from the basic, where our honorable prime minister has been talking about beti padhao, beti bachao. So these are policies which are not just words. These are things that as one individual really need to understand. Women empowerment is something that is very, very close to me because frankly I lost my father when I was 2, and I was raised by my mother, and I have 2 elder sisters. I've been surrounded by women who have actually helped me become what I am today, including my wife. So it is very, very important to have gender equality. And one needs to understand that there is nothing that stops anybody to become. It's just the social upbringing of the societies that has created that benchmark ki bhai, women can't do it or men can, and this is men's job and this is women's job, you know. We were groomed as children ki either you become a doctor or you become an engineer. Later on, till I came, it became business management also was included. But I would personally ensure that my child gets to choose whatever he wants to, and I never make that decision for him. Similarly, girls were always said ki journalist ban jao, teacher ban jao, professor ban jao. Why create that stereotypical mindset is something which I have an objection to, that everybody in terms of grooming, in terms of parenting needs to understand and needs to stop this कि भाई लड़की है उस पे हाथ मत उठाओ, 2 भाई बहन है, लड़का है और बहन लड़ रही है तो easily they say that don't hit your sister. She's not weak. Why are we creating such environment to say that she is weak? Everybody is equal everywhere. What we need to understand is we need to respect each other. You're not supposed to, what you need to tell your child is you're not supposed to hit anybody, whether it is a girl child or whether it is a sister or anybody, you know. So this is a basic practice that which needs to change in the society and which should be a part of our moral education, where we understand that we all are equals and we all have the same opportunity. The minute we start saying that we need to give special position, I think somewhere we are directly saying that women are weak. They are not weak, they are there, they are present, they are doing excellent work. It's just that we need to create that space. We don't have to be rigid. We have to accept. There are times where I get a lot of complaints from corporates that हमारी boss lady हैं वो नहीं समझती हैं या ऐसी चीजें. One needs to understand that a boss can be a lady and the boss can be, but she's there because of her caliber. So what needs to be done is something which is from the ground level. If we start initiating good moral education from now, another 20-25 years, you'll see that change, that women will have equal space and women will always, and I personally feel they can actually do excellent work more than men do.
Since you have talked about climate changes, so there is a question. During the lockdown, Yamuna became so clean, but now it's worse. So what is your opinion about it? What kind of leadership quality or good governance can be useful to clean our rivers? Like we are saying Namami Gange project or Clean India movement. So how we could be able to manage such things at the government level?
See, there's a huge contribution of the industries that are in and around rivers. Basic thought process was a better flow of water will be around. That's how industries developed. I understand that was all in the past. Nowadays, what one should do is, so it's not one step, it's a lot of steps that you take place for a river cleaning, right? One is the religious aspect also. One needs to start. I'm not saying that every religion is wrong or right here. I'm being very, very neutral and practical about it. that we have this habit कि भाई पूजा का सामान है, it should go in the river, or these are things which one should stop doing it. There are other ways to let go and decompose and put it in a right manner and I don't think God will get upset if you don't do that. So I think one should actually start thinking about basic things, as I've been appealing to since my speech, that individually, if we stop throwing things, first step is that. Secondly, in terms of governance, one needs to understand a lot of efforts take place, but then there are these state rules. Like Yamuna got clean because Haryana had let go of certain water and that had to be passed. And again, it has come back to the same scenario. The industries that are already there on the belt, lakhs and crores of money. I remember going to Varanasi, that's my hometown, and when we used to go to Assi Ghat, you will not believe it was a place where you could not even stand for a minute. Since the time our Honorable Prime Minister has taken charge, the entire Ghat is like a foreign resort kind of a place, where you can actually sit, relax, meditate, or have that spiritual time. So where there is a will, if you look at Sabarmati, if you even look at Lucknow, it's just what one needs to understand is the basic psyche. How you will compare a normal marketplace. What I'll suggest is a normal marketplace, which is like probably Rajpur Road over there and Noida Market or Khan Market here. It's an open marketplace. You tend to find more dirt there. And if you go to a mall, it's very clean. Our social conditioning is such that if we are put in a clean environment, we tend to keep it clean. Airports are always clean. Railway stations aren't clean. Because we have seen people throwing things on the railway track, spitting. It's not that the person who's chewing tobacco does not go to the airport, goes to the airport also in today's world, but does not spit. The social conditioning is that. So what the governance should do is clean it once, create an atmosphere that is clean so that it actually helps keeping it clean future. Just by doing a short-term solution is not the solution to such problems of clean India. We need to create a clean environment so that people get used to being good.
Sir, normally in the student's life, it's very difficult to make the priority list. So one of the questions from our student, how to develop a priority list in our life? Since you are chairing the Governance and Leadership Institute, and you might be interacting with various universities as well as their students. So how normally, if you were the student, so how you have managed the priority list in your life?
See, this is a very, very interesting question, Sudhirji. This has been asked to me by a lot of people that you are holding multiple portfolio and how do you manage time and how do you do it and how do you get there? Everyone has this particular dream, whether they're politicians, they want to become the prime minister, whether they're businessmen, they want to become Mukesh Ambani, and whether they are in employment, so they want to become Sunil Pichai, they want to become Google CEOs and everything. But how one does it is the very relevant and a very basic question, which everyone knows it but doesn't do it. Time management is the essence, first. Secondly, you really need to focus on beyond your work. Beyond your work means how you can contribute. There are students who come, study, give attendance, score 90% and go out. There are students who score 70-80% but are there in extracurricular activities and they also go out. Everybody makes their mark. I'm not saying that they don't. Everybody makes their mark in their own simple way. But one needs to channelize and start doing those extra efforts. Whether you're a topper, whether you're a hardworking person, is not just one aspect of your life that makes you grow. If you really want to grow, one needs to have a multifaceted, and they really need to start thinking about how else they can contribute and what are the future aspects of what they are doing. So one needs to sit down and have a self me time, which that we keep talking about these days. We need to have our own me time where we sit down and think of what we have done and how we plan it in terms of future. In a basic nutshell, looking at to grow and become future leaders.
There is one more question. In today's generation, which is very hyped about every little things. So is it an advantageous or disadvantageous to the nation policies for the future prospects?
Everything is hype, yes, but self-awareness and thought is there, right? Whenever something is hyped, it is very, very evident. We are more equipped in this Google world today, the 21st century, with the right kind of knowledge. One needs to decide and cross-check those facts, whether they're hyped or not hyped, and then react accordingly. That's all I would like to say on this, because this is something which is one's own thought process, how they want to go about hyped notion or not. But one needs to, again, yes, aware citizenry. What we think of the youth today, they're much more aware of the surroundings and what is happening globally, and they are able to make those choices in a correct manner. So I personally believe truly that today's youth is aware and are very, very correct in what they do, because they really know what they want in life.
Okay. So there is one more question. Violent conflict, terrorism, famine, political polarization, economic inequality, and many other challenges are tested our states as well as societies. So looming above all of this climate change, an existential threat for the humanity. How will today's youth leader cope up with these problems?
Today's youth are already coping with these problems. It's not new. Terrorism has been there, famine has been there, all the problems that have been mentioned are there. We are already coping with it. We have to start finding the solution in terms of terrorism and nepotism, in terms of polarization of politics. What one needs to understand is it's never easy. People might say political polarization is taking place. It's through the media, the medium of knowledge and source that you're hearing it, through WhatsApp, through particularly paid media and other sources. Such process are a planned strategic marketing kind of gimmick. What you need to understand is, that's why I say that you have to be self-opinionated, so that you know what you want in terms of governance, in terms of political power. As young leaders, you need to be much more aware of reading both the counterparts and then deciding the right choice for yourself. And it's very important to go ahead and vote, so that you understand that what you're choosing is right. So that plays, so it's not just one thing, it is the complete role. And in terms of terrorism and the violence, governance can provide you CCTV cameras and a strong law enforcement. But as citizens and aware citizen, what you need to do is, if something wrong is happening in and around domestic violence, if you can hear, or if you need, we have this constant fear. We see an accident on road, we don't want to go and help. That there's the constant fear that police wale ye sochenge humne kar diya, wo ho jayega. Who wants to spare the time? We need to take out that extra time. It's as simple as that. We have to stop. We need to prioritize the circumstances that time. If you are going for an urgent exam and if you see an accident, I can understand you pass by. But if you are getting late for office and you can delay those 10 minutes, that could save a life, I would request you to do that. Your 10 minutes of reaching on time does not count towards humanity. That is a bigger cause. So one needs to start realizing those practical decisions and needs to start acting. And wherever you find threat and wherever you see violence and wherever you see those bad elements and whatever, you really need to take action in terms of what we need. I'll give you a small story here. India is a poor country where a lot of economically weaker section people are there who are not even getting a single meal today. And where we heard about these migrant laborers traveling for days without food and water. So I'm giving you a story of my grandfather. He was 5 or 7 years old. He also lost his father at a very early age, and he was living with his mamaji, and they were traveling to one location. From the market, they were going back home, and it was evening time, and they saw this person selling mangoes, and he was just wrapping up. And then Shastriji told his mamaji that I really want to have mangoes. So Mamaji said, why not? Just let's buy some and take it home. So he stood by, and then Mamaji started negotiating with the person that ₹1 mein sari tokri de do. So that those times the monetary value was very different. So he said ki nahi matlab ₹2.5 ka saman hai, I will not give it for ₹1. But eventually he also said ki let it be, all my stuff is going. At least I'll take back something home. So there were around 70 pieces of mango in that. And Mamaji paid him ₹1 and then told Shastriji, ki, you just collect it, I am walking ahead, you just collect it and come. And then Shastriji stood there, took 20 pieces out of those 70 pieces, and 50 he said, let it be, you take the ₹1, I am going. And 20 pieces, the minute he reached, Mamaji asked him, when they reached home, Are, tum itna kam laye, why did you leave the others? Like, we don't need it. We are just hardly 7 people at home. 20 pieces of mango will be more than sufficient, and we don't need it. So the moral lesson that we learn is we need to understand what materialistic things we need, and we just need to stick by that. And that's how we will grow as a society. What we are doing is, what we saw in COVID is, people with power and money hoarded these ration shops in their houses. And that's what that created that problem. And if that small bit of exercise and mental awareness is there, that the governance, the trust with the governance is there, one would have not done that and would have made others. So frankly, I would blame all of us who are empowered enough, not just the governance, that people who are hungry today are mainly because of all of us who are spending extra and making sure that our houses are full. That attitude needs to change, and we need to consume what is required for us and do that much only.
Thank you, sir. So I think we are on time, and surely we will try to learn the things what Shastriji normally used to say, and today our Vice-Chancellor also said, honesty, humility, as well as the hard work. Thank you, sir, for delivering us with a fantastic talk on governance and leadership. So finally, we, on behalf of UPES Dehradun and the entire support staff and our esteemed attendees in the webinar, would like to take this opportunity to place on record our heartily thanks to Shri Sameep Shastri ji for his gracious presence and taking out the valuable time of his busy schedule to enlighten us today. It's always been our pleasure to have you with us, and we look forward to see you again for the upcoming event also. Thank you so much, sir, and thanks to all the participants who have joined today. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.